Hello, everyone, and welcome to this weekend hospitality marketing show number 200. Oh my gosh, 461. Greetings from Den Haag, Netherlands. We're still here on our travels and journeys, which has been a source of much inspiration when it comes to our topics of the show. Today is by far more leaning in that direction than it is about solving world crisis problems and or things that are popping in the news like Google's SEO leaks and so forth like that, which will actually come into a topic of our show in the next week or two. Once a little bit more of the initial, everybody's first impact stuff and what did they first see versus now settling down and getting real tangible, actionable things related to the data leaks that came out of Google. That aside, today's show is a little bit about the first person experience of travel, something that unless you individually do yourself quite regularly outside of business travel, and even to a certain degree business travel, you forget, fail to remember how important it is for understanding everything that is around you when you do travel, especially when it comes to transient travel. Um, Business travel is one thing, it's functionally based. Where am I? Where do I have to go? What's the closest place? What's my transportation requirements? So forth and so on. You're not really there to make sure you don't miss the biggest ball of twine next door. That said, you do have ancillary time on your travels and maybe an afternoon before you fly or a day before you leave anything to take advantage of the location you're in, but those are usually microcosms of interest, things that can fit into a genie's bottle as to what you're looking to do for the time that you have available. I'm talking about transient travel, the travel in which you're looking at going to a destination and thoroughly enjoying that destination. Whether it's the only destination you go to or in a progression of destinations, you don't want to miss things. You want to make sure that you didn't squander your time when you're there. You did lose an afternoon trying to figure out what to do when you realized that you should have done something after you found out it was right next door or close enough by to do something about with. And traveling as we do in the time that we spent here in Europe and specifically in the Netherlands on this trip, that's ever present. You're in a city that you've never been into with things that have history, they have local information and so forth, things that you can do and see and eat and try and taste and experience and so forth. And it can be overwhelming unless you have clarity as to what you're interested in. There's a progression of things that you discover and then educate yourself on. You classify things that you really want to see, have to see, want to see, and maybe see. Kind of fall into those three hoppers. So, all that long winded predication to this. The show today is actually about you operating your hotel or restaurant in a way that addresses some of this and some of the smaller stuff. As my show cohorts used to tell me, do the block and chain basic stuff first before you do these little things. Well, guess what? These little things need to get done too. So our topic today is, if not you, then who? How to help your local destination market source. So first off, who are we talking about when we say local destination market source? We're talking about your DMOs, your designated marketing organizations, your CVBs, your convention visitor bureaus, your TDCs, your tourism development councils, and your chamber of commerces, and any other variations of acronyms that might fall into your particular category. Sometimes they're government. Over here in Europe and so forth, there's the VVV in Netherlands, which is the governmental tourism board. The United States, we have the American Chamber of Commerce, but it's not the same context as it is over here. All of these organizations, all these DMOs, CVBs, TDCs, Chamber of Commerce's, domestically in the United States have one mission, that is to drive more business to the destination areas that they're responsible for. The issue is, okay, that they have to move the whole mountain for everyone. They can't be preferential to hotels or a hotel, certainly not. And they can't be preferential to a certain industry aspect, restaurants and or hotels or golfing or and or spas. They have to be helpful to everybody, retailers, hospitality, everything that derives business from people being in the market. They are responsible in helping from a tourism perspective. Obviously, grocery stores help the local community as well. But grocery stores have a value proposition to people traveling and spending enough time that they wish to grocery shop because they're going to be cooking while they're there. Think of Airbnbs or places that long-term stays or residences that have micro kitchens, what have you, little refrigerators and so forth. It's a way of supplementing the cost of travel, which is of high concern these days. So because of this, wanting to move the mountain, they have a very interesting inversion to our rationale as a business operator. Our rationale of a business operator is we always have to value things cost versus reward, the infamous ROI, return on investment. How much do I have to spend versus what am I going to get in this sense of reward or revenue from that spend? CVBs, TDCs, and so forth, DMOs, we'll just refer to them in general as DMOs, rely on the fact that they either get tax money or they get supplemental funding or they get contribution monies. They're funded in a way that their main purpose is not the derivative of ROI in the sense of what they get as a investment return, but rather on what you get as an investment return. So that whole cost versus reward is actually inverted for them. The reward is their focus. How can we get more people to our market? And in turn, what will that cost us to do? It's kind of a flip of the model. That being said, they cannot, again, be preferential as to whom they help. Whatever they do, they have to help. It's not that they can't focus on improving an aspect of what they're responsible for. Like we need to drive more heads and beds in our entire destination, more so than we need to drive them into the restaurant. If we get them to stay at the hotels, they'll by inherence be going to the restaurants. That's an easy sell. But to only say that a CVB or a DMO is focused on how many rooms it can sell in hotels and how many rooms can be booked through its website is not the real value of what they're trying to do. Excuse me, nor would it last very long with everybody else that's contributing to the tax money or the funding for them if they're not deriving a benefit from their efforts. So they have to be balanced in all that. Their main mission in doing this is that the idea of drawing attention to the market they're responsible for will show, in contrast to everybody else, other DMOs trying to do the same for their destination areas, the choices that a guest can possibly have as to what they would do once they get there. Now, the problem is because they have to think on such large scale, there's a very big gap between their offerings and what actually gets used by a guest. When I say that, I mean that there's a lot of things, and I apologize if there's any background because we are, of course, in the common lobby of our hotel. And so you might hear some background noise that I'm not controllable. Hopefully, I'll be talking loud enough that it will cover over any of the dialogue that's behind me. So, anyways, in their process of trying to do it for everyone, they can't do the little things for just any one particular aspect of this. There creates this gap point. Now, going to the idea that when you talk to a hotel, as helpful as the hotel wants to be, you are very clear in your relationship with that hotel that if there's something more they can sell you, excuse me, upgrading your room, selling you an amenity, selling you a value add, whatever, they will try to bring that into the dialogue, as helpful as they will be. Okay, even when you're with the hotel and the front desk is there to help you, if there's something about what you're asking about that they can offer to you financially, if they're well dispersed into what they're offering as amenities, value propositions, what have you, excuse me, then theirs is to do that. And you understand that in that relationship with them. CVBs are supposed to not do that. Excuse me, DMOs. I keep referring to CVBs more in general, but DMOs are not in a position to necessarily do that. They're not there to try to sell you the more of what you're doing. They're trying to entice you to think that there's more to be purchased. The idea of, here you come to our market, look at all the things you can do. Here's all the places you can stay. Here's all the places you need. Here's all the attractions that you can go visit. Here's the entertainment that you can enjoy, so forth and so on, is under the idea that that will draw more attention, which benefits everybody that's coming to market. Now, that's fine. Unfortunately, in a very real first-person circumstance, you use certain tools persistently when you travel for transient. Google Maps, Apple Maps, more so Google Maps, give you an idea of proximities of where you're thinking of staying or where you've chosen to stay as to what's immediately nearby. Google's supplemented a lot of what they do for content on their discovery of your information by augmenting in the Google Maps proximities of events and things that they're aware of your interests in, so that you can see how close your hotel may be to something that you have expressed interest in before. It's selective. It's not something that the hotel can interfere with. It's something that Google adds into the Google Maps function, the information that's related to your property in the Google My Business. This is how far you are from the train station. This is how far you are from the palace. This is how far you are from whatever. Palace probably not good examples because we don't really have many of those in the States. But the idea is there. So you have certain tools to use. It doesn't prove to be completely helpful when it comes to making decisions as to whether it's worthy to go there. You then have to go over and follow down that rabbit hole. You look at images related to, you go to the website of the place that you're potentially interested in and see if there's enough information there that warrants its consideration into your itinerary. This process is rinsed, washed, and repeated over and over in your discovery of your destination. It's not centralized. Now, DMOs do have a lot of aggregate data. But again, going back to the generalization of what they're trying to provide as services for their market, that data is very broad. There are, of course, event-driven things. Of course, there's can't miss things, biggest ball of twine things. This is what we're famous for things. This restaurant's noted for things. And of course, the ever-present sponsored placement of content and data. I, as an entertainment center, want to make sure I always show up in the first page of the category, of course, of things to do. I, as a hotel, always want to be showing up quickly when it comes to places to stay. So you have that biased representation of data as well, all to financially support the efforts of the DMO to sift through as a user. Like, okay, that hotel shows up. Is it really a hotel I want, or just a hotel that's paying to make sure that I'm aware of them? That process has to be repeated in them. Plus, two, the details associated with what's eminently around everything is not as useful as what's eminently around you once you've made a choice of where to stay. Case in point, you're looking at a destination and there's a variety of things, a dozen things that you're interested in seeing and experiencing. They're all over the city. Once you've picked a hotel, and we've always said a hotel is the basis of your discovery or vacation. Once you've picked a hotel, your entire memory of your vacation is based from that single source because that's where you originate from during your entire duration there. That's where we start every day. We go from here to where we're going to go. You quickly find that although you picked a hotel that was around some of the eminent things you wanted to see, some of the other things that you're interested in are farther away, more of a challenge to get to. Really wasn't in context because you had no idea the scale. I mean, looking at a map is looking at a map, telling you it's a 10-minute walk. Who's 10-minute walk? A 10-year-old walk or a 60-year-old walk? So that is a relative thing. Plus also changes in roads, constructions, whatever, who knows? And a lot of times you then whittle down your idea of what you wanted to do because it just doesn't seem practical to get to that place that you thought you wanted to go to. Requires a walk, a train, a tram, another walk, another train, and you're finally there. Yes, it's in the area, but it's not a convenient thing. Why am I saying all this? Because as a hotelier, as a restaurateur, you need to augment this kind of data. It's always funny. I always make the comment, no matter where I travel, when you see a brochure rack in a hotel lobby, yes, they are still around for those of us, and you go to hotels, you see them. There's always something in that brochure rack that I didn't know about in the area. Cousin Bob's barbecue and fish fry, something or other, or Uncle Dan's fishing charter, something that nobody has a website on, whatever. Locally, people know of it. But more importantly, they decided to give brochure cards. It's sitting in a brochure rack, and they're sitting in the lobby of a hotel, and you didn't know they were there until you pull it out and go, I didn't know this was here. There's always that discoverability. What's also fun is things that help you with the area. How many times as a hotelier, especially destination resorts, not destination resorts, destinations or resorts and destinations, where there is a homemade map generated for the front desk to indicate, here's our hotel, this is there, and they do these pen scribblies all over the place of where it's at. Or you're asking for, a restaurant, and they flip out the map and they tell you where you are, and they draw pencils to where you have to, or a pen where you have to go walk to, or get a taxi to go to, or whatever it's located at. And that paper stays with you as a reference source. You literally put it in your pocket. It's not, you don't have Google Maps or anything else, but you have this piece of paper that's homegrown. Well, lots of stuff are missing on it. Only the things on the map that you as a hotel decided was worthy of putting on there are on there. That's if you actually took the effort. Sometimes these maps are nothing more than printed screenshot maps that the front desk people got tired of trying to hand gesture. Well, go out the door, take a left, go to the second block. Instead, they said, here's a piece of paper I copied off the screen, made multiple copies of it. So now I can whip it out on the countertop and say, we're here. Go to the left here, go over here, take a right. It's right there. I remember famously getting a lot of attention for one of my clients in Vancouver, who's now no longer the same hotel. And there was this amazing Korean food market that was nearby the hotel, but challenging to explain. It was a good walk, wasn't necessarily the shortest of walks, but it was within 15 minutes on average, regardless of the weather, to get to it. It was very hard to explain to guests. It was very hard to put on the website when it came to content. So what we did was we did a video when we were visiting of walking to the restaurant. And you're saying, great, watching 15 minutes of walking down the sidewalk. No, we just simply times accelerated it so that they could see the motion of the travel. We actually put it on a little map too, so you see the walking along the total path. And it helped people immensely where they could see it from the website. Okay, don't miss your chance to go to this restaurant. Here's how easy it is to get to it. Go out, take a left, go down the sidewalk, boom, take a right, and there you are. The restaurant appreciated it. The restaurant offered us special offers because we did this so that the people staying at our hotel could benefit from having stayed at the hotel by coming to the restaurant. They had a very good connectivity between the hotel and the restaurant. We started doing that to other places that were places we considered worthy of suggestions and referencing. Not just because they gave us a discount, but because we wanted to feature things around us that made us more viable, made us more valuable. A beautiful hotel in the middle of nowhere means that there's nothing around it to go to. You're stuck at their restaurant without traveling a greater distance. It makes a difference as to the choices you're making. If that's what you want, or if that's the most convenient place based on what your travel plan is, all fine and good. But if you're trying to be in a place that's around the things you're most interested, more important. So what does this mean? It means that you have to go beyond what you can sell of yourself first into what you can sell that may benefit others as well. That ability to go beyond what you sell to benefit selling for yourself. Like, here's a map of only the things that we make money off of. It's not a good map. Here's a map of everything you might be interested in. It'll benefit more than just us. Okay. It's not necessarily benefiting another hotel, although they could easily see that there's a hotel that's near you, your competitor, that might be another alternative in the future. But because of what you did for them and the supportive helpfulness that you've given them and the content and the discoveries, the information you gave them, there's a loyalty that comes with that, a familiarity that comes with that. If they were treated well and they got good service and your product was good, there's no reason for them to venture elsewhere, even if the price point is different, because they felt that they got good value for what they stayed with you. So going beyond what you can sell of yourself first into how you can help guests in turn sell more of yourself. So as you help guests, you're helping yourself. It's an inversion. It's literally, as I mentioned before, when you talk to a hotel, you're people at a hotel, you under the predication, you know that they're going to refer to something if you can buy it from them. Think of the paid for concierges that exist in places like Key West and so forth, where their recommendations are based on the fact that they give you a referral to bring in there and they get compensated for how many referrals they send to that restaurant. It doesn't mean it's the best restaurant. It means they get the most money from that restaurant. Those are always biased referrals. Good concierge, back to the days when the double keys meant something. Your references were based on what you indicated was interesting and what you were interested in. I find it always the most amazing question to ask when you're at a hotel and you're trying to discover places to eat. And you ask the person behind the front desk, well, where do you like to eat? Or what do you think is the best restaurant? Now, unless the person's very similar in your age and have you already qualified that there might be a mutual similar interest of things like, oh, I love Korean food. Okay. Their recommendation is going to be completely about their personal interest. If you don't like venison, why would you go to a restaurant that they indicate is great for it? You'll just be dismissive of it and ask if there's another one, or politely just decline it and not do anything. It's better to find things that are related to your interests than they are about just asking general preferences of people that may not have the same interests as you. Okay, so how do you go through this process? Well, you have to look at the ways that you can help your guests. What are the things that you know from your front desk experiences that your guests are challenged with? A lot of it is orientation and configuration of they're aware of certain things because they've done some predicated education and discovery stuff, but they're trying to get oriented now that they're with you as to where that is. How far really is that? And which direction is that really? And yes, you can look at your Google Maps and look for the little blue thing to tell you which direction you're pointing, but we all know that that's not exactly super accurate. So you're trying to get kind of a reference point to that. So what helps with those things, which is really fun, is that you can create immediate, meaningful solutions that benefit how your guests go through the progression of what they need in the orientation with you. I'm referring to something kind of fun in general, but it's actually very useful. Maps and guides. I know I was saying make the copies of the maps and so forth, or have I see them all the time. That's a very basic way of trying to help, and it's not necessarily the best ultimate solution, but it's better than not having a solution. So go through the effort of making a better map. Now, it doesn't have to be a paper map. You can have maps made that have what's called urban art image characterizations of buildings on a map, so it's a little bit more visually appealing. Like, oh yeah, look, it's a cute little rendering of this and this and this. So there's also digital ones you can give them. QR scan it. You don't have to necessarily put it on your website, although it's not a bad thing to do. You can charge people for it. You can charge people that aren't staying with you for it. You give them a code to use if they're staying with you so they don't have to pay for it. And you download a map. And it's very easy to create maps and guides that have the biggest ball of twine, the greatest grouper sandwich, the can't miss sunset, all within around so they can tap on what they might find about it, things that they wouldn't normally have found, and things that don't normally come from a CP or DMO or anything like that. These are very specific things, more centric around you, that gap between what the DMO does for you and what you do for yourself. This is what you're filling in, that helpful stuff. Hey, right around the corner is this really cool restaurant that does such and such. Hey, around the corner is this really cool shopping area. And by the way, things like coupon guides, coupons. One of the big things we had success with Hotel in Miami was they were next to one of the large malls that was very good for international travel. People would travel internationally into Miami with huge empty suitcases to go to this mall, buy a tremendous amount of products here while they're in the US, specifically to go back to the country where they couldn't normally get them or they were very expensive to get in their country. So what we did is we went to the mall and basically collected all of the in-mall coupons that were being made available and links to the coupons that the particular retailers were offering. And we made that as a part of the package. We didn't, the package was the value proposition of the duration of stay. The value add was this coupon information would be given to them so that once they get there, they help them understand what they can get better in discounts. Very big and successful when it comes to that. If you're doing any sort of retail plan, if you're a mall or something as a hotel, very helpful to have that. It's not like you're creating the coupons. You're simply aggregating them and making them available to your guests rather than them having to try to figure it out for themselves. You've shortcutted that and given them as a resource. And that's the really key element to this helpful collaboration for your content is you're trying to fill in the gap of what is not being offered. This information and things can't be done by the DMOs because it's too small, it's too granular. It's not and something that helps everybody. It's too small to be something they can take on themselves. Not they can't make a guide or they can't make a map, but the map has to be very general. It has to be broader than just the helpfulness of being in your hotel, in your lobby, offering this value proposition, this discovery of, hey, here's a, can be a paper map, but to avoid cost, make it a digital map and make it where you can make it fun and descriptive, where you can do little hidden things that only locals know. Like if you go to this point at 5:45 in June or July or whatever, you're gonna get this great sunset right behind you for a great picture. That kind of helpfulness is critical to that individual personalization of what you're offering as a product to your guests. A lot of this also comes to knowing what your guests are going to want to know more about in the pre-roll. Not everybody does their homework before they get with you. Sometimes they feel like they understand what's around the place that they're staying at, and they're going to worry about it once they get there as to really defining, do I want to go to that restaurant or do I want to go to that event, that attraction or whatever. But pre-arrival content is incredible. You should have it as content on your website anyway. Then you could also make it orphaned on your website that's only linkable from your pre-arrival communications with people. But that's where you really get to shine by making some very homegrown videos. Hey, this is Lauren, the front desk. We're going to show you a really cool restaurant we really like. We're going to show you, like I did the video, we're going to show you, walk around to you and show you where it's at. Or be there and say, hey, this is the owner, and this is the menu, and this is the information, and so forth. There's another one, menus. We used to have copies of menus from our local restaurants at the front desk. So you had a chance to actually look and see what was being offered by restaurants before you had to go walk around and go to the restaurants and see what they were. Now, obviously on Google Maps and so forth, you sometimes have the chance of seeing what the menu is for a particular restaurant, but there's always the question, is it current? There's no prices. If there is prices, are those the real prices? There's this whole not sure thing. Why not have a place that has links to the QR code menus that are for all of the restaurants in the area so that people can literally look through what restaurants to see what menus are literally being offered by the time that people go to the restaurant and scan the QR code. This is a big thing that's gone on with QR codes. Yes, there's a trend to go back to paper menus in restaurants and so forth. We're going to have discussions about that in the next few weeks anyway. But it's still, QRs aren't going to go away, and QRs are still going to be used a lot of times for more in-depth menus than they would be just the paper ones that have to constantly change. There's also the chance that maybe you don't know which ones without going to Uber Eats or whatever. And then it's a crapshoot when it comes to which platform handles which delivery for which hotel, or excuse me, for which restaurant. You may look on Uber Eats and the restaurant isn't listed, but then you go on another platform and that's the service that they use to deliver food. Your hotel should have this information. They should know which are the delivery services. Sometimes restaurants have where they would prefer, given a certain radius, to self-deliver. Saves them on their cost, and they can go over and actually deliver for you. Or maybe you can pre-order and actually just go pick it up yourself if you want to go take a first short walk. This is the kind of information that needs to be put together. Pre-arrival, during the time that the hotel, making it available through QR access or not. This is all those things. So you have maps and guides, you have pre-arrivals like videos and podcasts, where you want to discuss and talk about things that you should enjoy in the market that are pre-recorded audios of just a simple guide. Strangely enough, and this worked out really well for one of our clients, we did audio tours. We made short walks around all the cool stuff that was around the place because it's in a really cool city of things that we just knew that there weren't other tours for, or worse yet, touring platforms that required too much money. Like you had to buy their app and you had to buy it for a year to get this one tour down to be able to purchase it. So I was like, well, we'll just give you our rendition of a tour. Now we're not trying to shortcut local vendors from doing these tours. These are conglomerate tour companies. These aren't tour companies that are based in the town that you're in. These are ones that are global in their apps and that people have to submit their tour to if they're lucky. And anyway, I'm just saying that if it turns to be a resistance point where people don't want to or are not familiar with the process, maybe you can offer it to them. It's like, hey, look, we have our own tour, our own map guide. There are platforms now you can make your own map guides with and have people take their own tour, walk their own pace, see their own things, go by a little icon on the map and go, I wonder what that is. And they're standing in front of you going, great. They can, if you're very robust, you can actually have ones where it's your proximity mark that you have the app that's with you. And when you get close enough to something, it'll actually ping and say you're next to such and such. Hit this button and it'll tell you what you're standing next to. I have those too. There's plenty of solutions like this. The other is that you're connected and make provisions for all of the event things that are possible in your area. There is a new service that Google has put into its Google Maps, and Google My Business, which is ticket insertion, third-party sales. So when you look in a place that sells tickets, you can now use a third-party vendor, or the company can use a third-party vendor, or they can provide it for themselves, or they can sell tickets to themselves online right there from the mobile, from the map section. You want to buy a ticket to a water park that's right next to you, and the water park has been savvy enough to add that as a function on their Google My Business. You can buy the tickets right then to go into the park and maybe offer the discount value from that rather than having to go stand in the line of everybody trying to get into the park. You already have your tickets and show your QR, and in the door you go. But all of the event places, like if there's a concert, if there's an event that's in your area, a festival or whatever, and there's a place that to know more about getting tickets, make at least the link valuable. Make it so that it shows up on your content to say, hey, if you're thinking about going to this conference or to this convention or this presentation, here's their website and here's the link if you want to get a ticket. Here's more information. Here it is. And then your content, what it would take to get from you to it. And really that a lot of times takes your map information and puts it into a place that people can digest it from your site, which makes you going to a more particular thing more of an authority and more of a trusted authority. Some of the other things that you can do for yourself, and I can keep this conversation going for a while because this is a hot spot for me to talk about these things, is Suggested itineraries. I was always fascinated by airline magazines when we used to have them, that there was 36 hours in XYZ city. And what it did was it knew that people flying, landing in the place because of flight schedules and so forth, might have a day or a day and a half in which they could explore the place that they were in after they've traveled for business there. And so they gave an itinerary listing of all the things that would be interested based on the category of what they would want to do. Usually soft adventure, bungee jumping or kite surfing, um, off the beaten path, things that you don't normally discover. Culinary, things that places that you want to eat at or do, to enjoy food wise. Family adventures, things that families would participate and be in. Cultural, history, things like this, monuments and so forth that you'd want from that. These categorizations of what they do would be what I would say is the best thing to do when it comes to creating suggested itineraries. That if somebody has an afternoon and this is what you're interested in, make sure you don't miss this. If you have a whole day, we suggest you start here, go there. Walking tours, again, going back to, hey, if you have an hour to just get out and walk and stretch your legs, why don't you walk out to here, look at such and such, and then continue over to here and look at another thing, and continue on with those kind of choices as to destination walking distances, okay? We've already mentioned coupon books and aggregate local resources for things, menus for restaurants, best places to take a picture, so forth. All those things should be offered and given towards your guests once they arrive at the front desk for pre-arrival or as content on your website. Other things too is like seasonal information, very specific to when the guest is visiting. There are some great platforms, Flip2 is one of them, that can show all of the things that are going on during the dates that you are in a location, what concerts are going on, what events are going on, what things not to miss. If it's not available or something you don't use Flip2, which is I'm a big fan of Flip2, but if you don't have it, then make your own calendar that has the highlights that you know are valuable to your guests based on the value proposition of the proximity to your hotel. Remember, there is no cavalry coming over the hill. It's not someone else's problems. It's you taking control over the fact that you've done everything you can. Your restaurant is set up perfectly. Your hotel is set up perfectly, but there's no guests. How are you driving guests to your hotel? And a lot of your business, a lot of your marketing advertising, a lot of what your third parties give you is really very close to the ZMA, zero moment transaction, where they just want to make sure that your hotel or your restaurant is at the point of acquisition or point of purchase. Getting all of the audience to that point is not really what they focus on. One, because of ROI driven decisions and the high cost of getting in front of a large group of people that may or may not buy your product. Okay. Prevents you from getting into that area place. That's where the DMOs are supposed to be doing the marketing for you is how can we get in front of a lot of people, drive a lot of people to you so that they're at that point where they can make a purchase decision with you. That's great. But as we talked about today, there's a big gap between them moving the mountain for everybody, excuse me, and how they can help you individually. And you can see from the things we talked about today, there's a lot that you can help yourself individually for. Excuse me, pardon me for the coughing. So with that, I think we've hit the highlights of what I wanted to talk about. As always, I appreciate your time. If you're watching us on our TV channel, Hospitality Channel on your TV, thank you so much for that. If you're watching us on our simulcast, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, thank you for that. As always, thank you for your feedback. You can always reach me at lauren@hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. And with that, before I keep coughing, my name is Lauren Gray. Thank you for the privilege of your time and look forward to talking to you all next week.